Hi there, greetings and salutations. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz, and it is the incredibly creatively and appropriately named, now charitably award-winning Query and Schultz program on the ISC Sports Network. And Derek, you could make the argument now that we turned the calendar to October. Is this the busiest sports month of the year? It's one of them, right?
The best, I think. And I know that's sacrilege because May, right?
In March.
In Indianapolis, and March for the most part. But this is my favorite month. Baseball playoffs, NBA season and media days getting going, college basketball, media days, things like that getting going. You get in the heart of the college football season. NFL, you start to figure out who teams are. There's a lot to like about this particular portion of the sports calendar.
I missed this last night, and we're taping on a Tuesday morning, by the way. And there is plenty to talk about, in particular with baseball. Obviously, we're going to get to a lot of Colts. Pete Rose is passing. Dikembe Mutombo's passing. Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday. There's a lot going on. But last night was the one-game playoff deal, right?
What's that?
Last night was the one-game baseball playoff deal, right?
Oh, no, that was the Mets-Braves doubleheader was an extension of the regular season.
Oh, I thought that was the one-game play-in thing.
No. So what happened was the Mets, Braves, and Diamondbacks entered the final day tied, basically, but the Diamondbacks had completed 162 games. The Mets and Braves had not.
You know what? Just because it was the only game, I figured that was
Yeah, sure. Well, it was a playoff-type atmosphere, right?
Right?
And what a wild game. Like, the Braves are up, and then the Mets come all the way back, and then the Braves come back, and then the Mets come back. They needed to split to both make it, and they split and both made it, so the Diamondbacks go home. So the Diamondbacks are not in the reigning NL pennant winners are not in the
Could
playoff.
they have arranged that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk about this is kind of a weird situation for them to be in.
But do you think they could have gone in going, hey, look, here's the deal?
Yeah, probably. It was kind of sad, I think there were 72 people at the Braves game. Atlanta's...
So my apologies. I thought that was the one-game playoff deal.
Atlanta's always been an awful sports city. It's a transient city. Nobody's actually from there.
But people that are Braves fans, our buddy Paul the mailman, our buddy Tyrone the nice guy at the party, those guys,
they don't live in Atlanta.
They're diehards.
Yeah, but they don't live in Atlanta, so they don't go to the games. I am.
Paul goes to games.
I'm invested because I'm a Yankee fan, and I want to see them do well. Jordan's got his Orioles stuff on, even though they've been a bad baseball team for like 3 months now. So there are people that I think individually in my life that are into it, but for shows like this or for your show, for Query & Company, I don't even know if it's much of a topic. Honestly.
No, that's fair.
I think people know Ohtani. I think they know Judge. I think if you're like, hey, who's the best player on the Milwaukee Brewers right now? I don't think a lot of people would be able to tell you.
There are teams that got into the Major League Baseball playoff that aren't overly, Kansas City.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool that they got
and they have a great play. They have one of the best players in baseball. But if he walked around the circle right now, how many people would know who Bobby Wood Jr. is,
He could wear a Royals hat.
So that's just kind of where baseball is, sadly. I still love it, and I'll always love it.
As evidenced by the fact that I thought last night was a playoff game. I saw that I was doing something, saw the score, was keeping the score update, and I just assumed it was the one-game playoff.
No. Yeah, that was the conclusion of the regular season. So now the playoffs are set. Mets and Braves are 2 of the 3 wild cards.
The Guardians, now this is crazy, but at the beginning of the year, the show Query & Company that I'm on, the 3 of us each took a team, and with a bet of which one would have the best record amongst the 3. I took the Brewers, and Jimmy Cook took the Guardians.
Oh, did they have the same record?
The Brewers ended at 93-68. The Guardians were 92-68 going into the last game of the year, and it was canceled.
Oh, ouch.
And I can't remember who they were slated to play. I thought Arizona. It must not have been. But anyway, that game was canceled. They just canceled it. And so I'm like, well, then we determined that the tiebreaker would have been the head-to-head. They did play each other once over the year. The Brewers swept them, so I would have won either way. But it's interesting that you would pick 2 teams after that many games. It would be tied.
So the wild card series. This is the new format, right? With
Can I guess
3 wild cards. Yeah,
I'm going to guess. So the wild card series, National League, right?
Yep.
There are how many wild card teams?
There are technically 3.
Yeah, there are 2 that play
3
head-to-head.
divisions, 3 wild cards.
So hold on. There are two teams that have to play head-to-head for one game to go on to play a wild card series. Is that correct?
No, it's a best of 3.
They don't have the one game play-in anymore?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a best of 3 now. They were doing the coin flip game when it was 2
That's-
wild
yeah,
cards.
yeah.
There'd be a coin flip game.
So there are 3 wildcard teams.
Yes,
Okay.
in each league.
The New York Mets,
Yep.
the Atlanta Braves,
Yep.
and the San Diego Padres.
Yes, in descending order.
Okay. And then your divisional winners are the I should know this in the East. Hold on. Well, obviously the Milwaukee Brewers,
Yep.
the Los Angeles
Central.
Dodgers.
Yep, in the West and the East. It's not Atlanta. It's not the Mets. Just do process of elimination.
I can't believe that I'm.
Philly.
Oh yeah, Philly. Well, Philly's been the best team in baseball all year.
Yeah,
It's
they've
hard to
been
hear
good.
about
They've been
them,
good.
right?
I mean, they're technically the 2 seed. They fell behind the
I know,
Dodgers,
but
but
they've
yeah,
been
they've
the
been
most
good.
consistent all year.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yep.
American League. Are you
Yep.
ready?
Yep.
Okay, the Kansas City Royals wild card,
Yes.
the
Red hot.
Detroit Tigers
Yes,
wild
best
card.
story in baseball. Yeah, they were like 5 or 6 games under 500 in August, and they just went crazy over the final 6 weeks.
We have one more wild card to get to, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, but first off, then I'll have to. Oh, the Baltimore Orioles,
Yes,
cute
cute
fella.
fella. Yep.
Cute fella is a wild card, and then your divisional winners would be the New York Yankees.
Yep.
The Cleveland Guardians.
Yep. In the West, the team that wins the West every year.
Hold on.
They used to be an NL team.
Oh, the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
There's not overly sexy.
That
storylines
concludes our baseball
there.
playoff
That's right.
talk.
All right, let's
for
get to the
today.
Colts. The Colts get a win, and yet they get a loss because Anthony Richardson did not get the win himself. I know that sounds extreme. Good news is Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, neither of these injuries are going to be like multi-game miss injuries.
Yeah, they're fine.
They dodged bullets, if you will. But, Derek, I'm going to go back to what I keep saying, and I think you'll agree with me on this. It is great when Joe Flacco comes in and helps the Colts win a game because you're staying afloat. You are staying within striking distance in the division. You're keeping yourself in the wild card hunt, even though we're only a quarter of the way through the season. But the more games you win with Joe Flacco, all you are doing is taking a debt that you have, taking out a loan to pay off that debt. You feel good because you're like, I have no credit card debt, but I owe the bank $15,000. You're just shifting over.
Yeah.
You are taking a short-term victory and just delaying the long-term project. And in the case of the Indianapolis Colts, this year is about the development of Anthony Richardson. It's not about trying to win games, to do things without him. Theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. If Anthony Richardson's healthy, he should play. If he's not healthy, then you go to Flacco.
Right.
I mean, right? I know we're supposed to be like verbose and like turn this into like an hour-long sports talk show, but if Anthony Richardson is healthy, he should play. If he is not healthy, he should not play. There is no other thing. You know, Anthony Richardson is struggling, so you have to bench him. No. Anthony Richardson is his completion percentage is under 50%, so you can't. No. Anthony Richardson is healthy. He plays. If he struggles, he struggles. You know, it's the Russian guy in Rocky. If he dies, he dies. So what? He has to play. He has to play.
You don't want Anthony Richardson
Reps,
to die.
experience. If he's getting killed out there, if the Colts are losing, I don't care. You gain nothing by starting a 40-year-old Joe Flacco for 13 games. You gain nothing with that. And you're likely in the same exact spot that you were last year with Gardner Minshew, where you're like an 8 or 9 win team. Because Flacco's okay. Flacco is a decent backup level quarterback. But to use your spare tire or donut tire analogy, that's what he is.
Right.
You don't want to.
Well,
that was
Cleveland
the perfect
learned that,
situation.
right?
The perfect situation was for him to come in with a lead. I mean, basically, you're knocking on the door 14 donut when he comes in. You're not about to go down 2 scores when Flacco comes in, and then there's a lot of pressure on him. So I think it was a great situation for him to enter into. It was very similar last year to the Houston game, where I thought Anthony Richardson played well. Anthony Richardson last year in Houston was awesome until he ended up getting that concussion. And I thought the start of the Pittsburgh game was very effective. And the Colts were in a good position when Flacco came in, and he shepherded them the rest of the way. The offense kind of slowed down there in the middle portion of the game. But I think overall, especially on third down, Flacco did a really nice job.
I think he did do a nice job. Cleveland learned a year ago what Joe Flacco is, which is that he is an older player who's a very solid, stable donut tire to get you to the next destination, to get you to the next exit. But he is not the guy that you stay with to the final destination. Cleveland saw that a year ago where he played really well for them, got him in the playoffs, and then boom, right? By the way, Nick Yeoman had a very interesting point, which I was very proud that many people said, well, that sounds like something Query would say. Did you ever think about this in the career of Joe Flacco?
What's the question?
Joe Flacco began his career with who?
Baltimore?
Okay. Baltimore. The Ravens, right?
Yeah.
And then after he played for Baltimore, he went where?
The Jets were in there somewhere.
Okay.
Was there another team?
Well, let me rephrase that. He ultimately ended up last year where?
Cleveland.
Okay, Cleveland.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Was there another team in there besides the Jets?
We'll keep the Jets. We'll keep the Jets.
Rake's mouthing it to me, but I can't see his mouth. Was there another team that
I
I'm
don't
missing?
know, but we'll keep the Jets into the equation too. That's fine. And then after Cleveland, he went where?
Colts.
Okay. So what that means is that Joe Flacco began his career in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is where the Colts ultimately left from Baltimore, right?
Broncos. I don't remember. I do remember the Eagles. I missed the Eagles. I don't remember the Broncos at all.
Okay.
Because that was the whole thing with Steichen. That
So he was in Baltimore initially, right?
Yeah.
The city that was still mad because the Colts had left. Then eventually, circuitously, he ended up in New York, the Jets, right?
Yeah.
The Jets, who lost the most famous Super Bowl originally to who won, the most famous Super Bowl over Baltimore, right? But that was the Baltimore Colts.
Yeah.
And then he went to Cleveland, which actually is Cleveland is the city that became Baltimore, the Ravens that he played for.
Yeah.
And Cleveland also, by the way, mind you, played the Jets in the first ever Monday Night Football game.
Yeah.
And then he went to Indianapolis, which is the city that got the Baltimore Colts.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, we could throw in there, if you'd like, that he also went to Denver, which has never won a Super Bowl without a quarterback drafted by the Indianapolis Colts or the Baltimore Colts, which is also fun, right?
But if Richardson's healthy, I think he should play. That's kind of where
he's
I'm
healthy,
at.
right?
That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Here's the thing, Derek. What we lose sight of in that game is that Anthony Richardson, for the first two drives, looked really good.
Yeah.
He actually made throws that we wanted him to make. Richardson on that first drive, and I got to go back and look. I think he was 3 or 4 for 71 yards or 4 or 4 for 71 yards or something like that. But they had two drives. They moved the ball, and Richardson to this point has been a guy that the deep, dark, way out there throws he makes, right? And then he's off on just the routine slants. He was hitting he had two different throws in those first two drives where he had, and I can't remember if it was Pittman or Downs that were streaking across.
One of them was Downs.
And he hit him right in stride,
Yeah.
and you're going, okay.
Yeah.
This is what they need
Small
from him,
sample,
right?
but he nailed two
Correct.
of them. Yeah, I think he missed on one and he hit the other two.
Now, the other thing is, and this is what is going to be interesting with him, and it's something they've got to just feel their way through. His size, his athleticism, and his speed, and what is going to enable him to be a thrower is the fact in time that you can mix in running plays. But yet, when he has mixed in running plays is when he is susceptible. And I think for now, they need to think of him as a passing quarterback. And then until those mechanics and those things get down, and then you mix that in.
No, you still have to. He has to run. It's his best skill. You have to utilize that.
But I understand that. But what I'm saying is his best skill. If you, I don't disagree. You have to run, but you can't become reliant on it because you have to force the baptism by fire of him learning how to throw.
Yes, I agree. He has to be smarter. And know when and when not it's worth taking a hit. And I think the Colts have to be smarter too. For him to come back in the game and for them to immediately call a run play.
They outsmarted themselves.
Yeah,
right?
it was not the right decision for them to make. But I just don't. He's not the kind of guy that you say, he can't run. You can't do that. You can't treat him like that. I do think if we're looking for positives, besides the fact that Richardson played well in a small area of the game and is not. Looks like a long-term injury, and ditto for Taylor. This was the first time I felt really confident about the Colts overall and how they played on both sides.
Yeah.
Because even the Houston game offensively I was happy, but defensively it was ugh. This was a game that I thought on both sides of the ball the Colts played well. Last week was about survival, and last week looked like two very mediocre teams just having a pillow fight somebody had to win. The Colts were the better team.
Pillow fights
really,
can be pretty extreme. If you get the big heavy pillow with the feathers.
Sometimes it can hurt. My kid is, he's almost 8, and he smashed me with one the other day, and it went in my cornea.
Where were you pillow fighting?
On the couch.
I thought maybe down in the basement,
living room,
your Chateau Kitchen's basement.
Yeah, no. Sometimes we do that too, but we have the big hefty pillows up on the upstairs couch. So that's what we use that for. But I thought they did a great job on T.J. Watt. The offensive line has been fantastic. How about Bortolini coming in and just, he looked like a veteran.
Derek, Bortolini, Ryan Kelly at the beginning of the year. Let me tell you one thing that we're probably not talking about or haven't mentioned to this point. And by the way, thank you to Bailey & Wood, the presenting sponsor for Query and Schultz. BAWFG.com is the website for Bailey & Wood, the best in Central Indiana when it comes to your mortgage loans. Your mortgage rates going down just a little bit. You want to refinance, whatever it might be, Bailey & Wood is the place for you. We always appreciate their sponsorship of this program. We feel for them because Mike is a diehard Dolphins fan, and they're off to a slow start, but I digress. Ryan Kelly at the beginning of the year was open about the fact that he was interested in getting an extension, and the Colts didn't want to talk about it just yet. And it was thought that they would shelf that to the end of the year. That decision may be getting made for them just based on the fact that Bortolini, one game does not a year make.
No, of course, yeah.
But he does look like they might have a guy that they can slide into that situation.
And you got to think, Will Fries has been incredible. He'll be doing extension. Bernard Ryman will be doing extension.
And Ryman's been good.
And Kelly's just – he's older, and, I'd be really surprised if he's back in 2025.
I would agree with
that. You can't give monster contracts to all 5 offensive linemen. You can't. That's not a good way to – you shouldn't pay more than 3 of your 5 linemen monster contracts. 2 of those guys should be on rookie-level deals, I think, just from a team-building standpoint. And the Colts are in a position where, even with Braden Smith, because I think his contract year is next year, if I'm not mistaken, right? Where I think you're already thinking about that too, about letting that one run out.
Braden Smith's been a good player, but obviously.
Yeah, availability-wise, you worry a little bit, but when he's been healthy, he's been tremendous.
Right.
But they really, it looks like Fries has been found money, and they hit on Ryman, and the line, and Nelson's Nelson, right? The line looks really good. Line looks great. It's the strength of the team.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's been an issue for them, right?
Yeah, well, I think the only time it was really an issue was that weird 2022 start, and maybe that's just on Pryor and Danny Pinter. I don't know. But in 2022, the first half of the season, they were awful. And I think Nelson was banged up. He was recovering from this offseason surgery, if I'm not mistaken. There were a lot of factors, I think, that played into that.
So bottom line for the Colts was this on Sunday. Richardson looked good. He gets banged up. You could question whether or not that was the right call on how he got banged up. Looked like he wanted to come back out. But they went ahead and ruled him out with the hip injury. That does not look to be serious. Jonathan Taylor played well for them, had the mild high ankle, or the ankle sprain that was not a severe high ankle sprain, but one that you got to rest. Looks like he's going to be okay. If there is an area of concern that no one seemingly is talking about, and again, it's another one that if I was to nitpick, we were all told by Chris Ballard, don't worry about it. He knows more than everybody. We don't know what we're talking about. Matt Gay has been bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you are paid the highest kicking contract at the time that you're signed because you're Mr. Reliable from 50 and beyond, and you go out and in a league right now that's hitting 50-yarders at 60% of clip.
These guys knock them down all the time. Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
You were up in the press box. Actually was going to the suites, and I went to the ramp as you were coming to the elevator, and I almost called back and I said, "Hey, buddy."
Was that the first 20 or second 20 minutes I was waiting for the elevator?
Yeah, I was waiting for 40 until I decided to finally go to the ramp. I'm dead serious. I waited for over
ridiculous.
Half an hour, and then I was like, "Screw it! I'm just going to go find the lower suite ramp and go up there."
Suite were you in? That's very impressive. You've mentioned that 4 times.
The Indy Sports Corps, Sports Tech HQ, which is part of Indiana Sports Corps, they invited some of the Purdue folks to the suite, and it was really great. Yeah,
a lot of drinking.
Governor was there.
Did you do some drinking?
It's no big deal. No, I don't really. Those sort of functions, if there's a reception or something and there's open bar, I'll have a drink.
When you're in the suite, how much of the event in a suite is people hobnobbing versus watching the game?
It's a mixture. Yeah, I talked to some folks as well. There was one of the members of the University Board of Trustees who I've never actually met in person, and I talked with her. I talked with a new Purdue graduate who's part of the Sports Engineering Center. I talked with a bunch of people, and then of course the Sports Tech HQ people as well.
Okay,
so it was a lot of fun.
So you said, by
the way, the food is much better. I think they overhauled the catering a while ago. Remember, the press box food was notoriously terrible for like the first 10 years of Lucas Oil Stadium.
Right.
And the food that I had in the suite was delicious.
Well, they had that one year, remember, where they had rap food.
Well, that was, right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you know what? Something else, and not to get too off track here, I thought the atmosphere was tremendous. I thought it was
loud.
really
it was
good.
loud. Yeah.
Like, that, it had been a long time since I'd been, and I don't go regularly anymore, but I went every year from 2008 to 2019.
I am curious of this, and we'll get to your question in a second, and I mean this seriously. The security folks, for the Bears game, they all their uniforms were navy pants and orange shirts. For the Steelers game, they all had on black pants and gold shirts.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why are they always dressing in the opposition's clothing?
I wore Purdue colors, so I had like black and gold Nikes and stuff on, and I was like, probably shouldn't be wearing this for. But anyway, my question was, I'm just going off memory here. Colts had like a 3rd and 7. Rakestraw will know. They had like a 3rd and 7 to set up that Matt Gay kick, and they like handed off to Taylor to set up like a 53-yard field goal. And I'm like, what are you doing here?
Right.
Either throw the ball for the first down, and if you don't get it, punt. It's Justin Fields and the Steelers offense, which really wasn't doing anything. I just thought that was really.
I think they have
Shane Steichen called a great game, but I thought that was a really odd sequence.
Well, they also, Derek, I think that they are still under the mindset that Matt Gay from 53 in is like automatic.
You remember that happened with Reich and Vinatieri, and you remember what happened in a lot of those games. It cost them. So, you can't be stubborn about it. I was really surprised that they were playing for the long field goal in that spot, and that was not the right decision.
Not good, But
good win for the Colts, and look, it sets up nicely. I know about Jacksonville. I know about the history. I get it. But on paper, it sets up nicely here. Not a very good Jacksonville team. Not a very good Tennessee team.
I can't.
And then they've got a home game against somebody that's not very good right after that.
Well, they go to Minnesota.
They're looking at 5. They're looking at 5-2 on paper. But again, division road games are tough, right? So you can never just kind of take those for granted. Hold on, let me
figure out Miami.
Schedule. Well, they're cooked. And then the Dolphins at home. That's the other one. Yeah.
I just said Miami.
Yeah, they're cooked. Yeah. So if you can run that, you're 5-2 going to Houston.
So that's not sushi, right?
Ooh, Houston and Minnesota back to back, and then the Bills. Damn, this schedule gets.
It gets real.
Yeah, look at that.
But here's the thing.
At the Jets, Lions. That's a tough
next
stretch.
opponent, Derek, that we need to get into. I don't like admitting when I. It's one of those things where I'm like, maybe I was wrong, but I wasn't wrong. I don't know what the issue in Jacksonville is with Trevor Lawrence, but I'm telling you, like when I said coming out of college, when I'm like, this guy has every single skill set. He has every single skill set. How he has regressed and what's gone wrong, I have no idea.
The whole team's regressed in Lawrence's defense.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, he's big, he's durable, he's got nice touch, he's got all of it. I don't know if they don't protect him. I did see one play where he was criticized for overthrowing Christian Kirk, and I'm like, yeah, that dude made no effort to get to that football. I don't know what the issue is, but the bottom line is Jacksonville is tail spinning, and their season looks gone, right? And no, what are you doing?
Sorry, there was a text message.
Yeah,
you were talking about Jacksonville. Somebody texted me from Jacksonville to be on his show, and I totally forgot about it until just now.
I don't think that's at all what that is.
Yeah, it is. Hey, man, I'm in. Yeah.
Now, why would they ask you and not me?
I've known Hack for a long time. He was one of our, besides Mike Dempsey, he's on the same station as Mike Dempsey, 1010XL. Mm-hmm. And he's usually come on our show back when we had a radio show, and I usually go on his
Do you remember the one guy from Jacksonville that got mad at me?
Mike Dempsey, yeah. Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
That was after their AFC Championship run, and I think they were drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit.
And what was it I asked? I just said something like, it wasn't like a really negative question, was it?
No, it was something about like, I think it was predicated on if the season was a fluke or something.
No, I think I said,
right?
No, health-wise. I was like, is there concern that like he has issues staying healthy?
Okay. I don't remember.
And he got super mad at me about it.
I mean, it's not the only guest to ever get mad at you on the show.
But
Bob Knight hung up on us first year. first week on the show.
Didn't he say, that shows me that you're not very intelligent?
I don't remember exactly. I have it somewhere. It's on a hard drive. I haven't listened to it in 10 years.
That was after he talked to us for like 15 or 20 minutes, though.
But I mean, for the most part, we had guests that didn't get real combative. Lance Stevenson hung up when you asked him if he was going to take a hometown discount with the Pacers.
That's right. And then he called back.
And then the team got really mad at me. The agent was super cool about it. So his agent called me. I was at Lowe's, and she was like, whoa, like, Lance is sorry. He's going to call back the next day. It was a miscommunication. He thought you were putting him on the spot. And I'm like, no, that's fine. Like, we love Lance. I mean, you and I both love Lance. I didn't want to put Lance in a bad spot. But I think he was with the Pelicans at that point, and their team guy got super mad at me. And I was like, look, what's the problem here? Like, why is that an issue? But, yeah.
Okay.
Lot
to get to today, right?
We've gotten off track a lot on this show. Yeah, a lot to get to, including our Hoagie and Hero of the Week. So let's get to that. Oh, boy. I am excited.
I had the Zaire again last week.
Oh,
Tremendous.
did you? Oh, I forgot. We were going to do the Zaire for this show, and I totally forgot.
Nice going.
Sorry. This is the Shipyard. Tuna Sando. I actually tried to make this. at my house, and I failed miserably because just the Peppadoo Pep. I did put parm on it, which is good. You don't think of parm for tuna. So this has a lot of elements here, all right? First, you got the Licio's delicious bread shipped in from South Jersey. You got the Prove. You got the house-made tuna sal. Then you got some
lettuce,
shaved O.
Onion.
Some tea.
Tomato.
Some Peppadoo Pep.
Peppadoo.
Some oil. And some parm. The secret ingredient is the parm in the Shipyard.
It is spectacular, by the way.
I mean, it's so good. So good. Love that sandwich. And Core Sando, Core Beer. Blood on the Tracks. The delicious IPA from our friends at Chili Water Tap Room, right across the hall, 42nd
It's
Boulevard.
a blood orange IPA, Derek, which is fabulous,
I got
right?
oil on my hands, so it's hard for me to... Right? Fruity, smooth.
Man, it's great.
Good.
It does have the beauty of this. Like, I love an IPA, but IPA sometimes, the hops in it can get a little thick, right?
Yeah.
The blood orange IPA softens that a little
neutralizes
bit and smoothens it out.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. Not that we're like
a little bit of a sweet
beer
touch.
snob connoisseurs, but I have real basic beer tasting knowledge.
No, that's
but
really good.
You're right. I'm hoping, like in the winter, maybe they'll do some darker stuff, like a stout or like a porter or something like that. I mean, we'll see. I'll ask Alexa what the plans are as far as that's concerned. Hero of the Week. And we were going to talk about this regardless, but then when Pete Rose also passed away, I was like, okay, we're going to dedicate a section to Pete Rose too. But Dikembe Mutombo was really like one of the first college to pro athletes that I followed. I was born in 83.
Right.
So I watched Dikembe Mutombo at Georgetown, and I watched him with Morning. And then I watched him become a top 5 pick in that NBA draft, the Larry Johnson draft, where he became by far the best player of that group. That really wasn't a great draft. But a Hall of Famer, a guy that when I think of the 1990s best defensive players in basketball, I think of Mutombo and I think of Gary Payton. Those are the two guys. And I think he won the Defensive Player of the Year award like 5 times or something crazy. He went to the Sixers middle of the season. Nobody talks about this because Iverson was so good, but he went to the Sixers in the middle of the season in 2001 and helped them to the he had 23, 19, and 7 in an Eastern Conference Finals Game 7. Like, I think people think of Mutombo as like this caricature, like the finger wag and stuff like that. Like, he was a dominant force when he was at the peak of his prime in his career. He went to Houston and he did well as well. I mean, I think he's known for Denver and Atlanta, but he went to, the Nets and the Knicks, and he kind of bounced around to other teams. But he was a wonderful man, an incredible humanitarian who did a ton for his home continent in Africa and the Congo and those places. And
I didn't realize, Derek.
I didn't realize he had a brain tumor.
Yeah.
I didn't even.
Well, I don't think a lot
realize
of people did, but that's ultimately he died of brain
58 years
cancer.
old. It's so sad.
He was an older player. Clearly, he must have come to the U.S. at an older age because he was like 25 in college, right?
I think that's right, yeah.
Because I looked it up when I saw that he was 58, and then I did the math. I'm doing the reverse math going, wait a minute, I could have sworn that he was at Georgetown in 90, right?
Yeah.
So you said he was a part of which draft, the 90 draft?
91.
So the 91 draft. So that would have been 34 years ago or 33 years ago.
Yeah.
So he was 25 when he was drafted.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I just remember I had a 1991 Upper Deck card of Dikembe Mutombo, and he's got the suit on and the Nuggets draft day cap, and it's the Denver skyline in the back, and I always thought it was a really cool card.
What do you think? I'm curious if you think of the same as I. There are two answers here, I think. What do you think is the defining memory image of Dikembe Mutombo?
It's winning in Seattle, holding the ball.
That's it. That's got to be it, right?
Yeah.
Laying on the ground for Denver. The first time that an 8-seed advanced,
Yeah,
right?
the Vince Mariles, the photographer that was down there, had the wherewithal to run on the court and just get that above view. There's just something special and unique. It was the first 8-seed, right? As you mentioned, to do it. It was this great moment in NBA history.
Yeah,
I
think that is his defining moment.
Yeah.
And, do you remember the guard that was on that team?
Robert Pack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was that was a nice combo, those two, right?
I mean, you're talking to me. This is like this level of, 1994 NBA would be like what 1987 is to you. Like it's the peak of my, and maybe I'm overstating, but to me personally, Dikembe Mutombo was basically one of the first big NBA stars of my life.
Derek, I think the thing about Dikembe Mutombo to take away from it is the fact that he utilized his platform to try to bring awareness to people that otherwise would not have it, and try to make people aware of plight around the world.
Yeah.
And for that, he is to be commended.
And there's a reason why he's universally beloved by everybody that was ever around him. That's all when we're gone, all you can say that is the legacy that you leave is how people remember you. And he's absolutely remembered and all that. So he's my hero of the week. Somebody else that I wanted to shout out real quick, and I guess he could be hero of the week too. Shout out to Freddie at Hoagies and Hops. Just a great dude. He 90% of the time he's the one that takes my order because I bring this every single week.
Is he the one that called you a little podcast dude?
No, he didn't do the little podcast dude. I think that was Max at Chili Water that said that. Who's also cool. But Freddie always compartmentalizes the sandwiches, so everything's on the side because then we bring them up here to tape the show and then we put them back together. But just a super nice dude. I mean, I worked in restaurants all through high school and college, and he's really always there. He's always working, and just shout out to Freddie for all and everybody there. I mean, Maddie, Donnie, Christina herself when she's behind the counter. Everybody there has been awesome. The service and the food is just tremendous at Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard. And our friends at Chili Water Brewing as well at the same location. We come back. We will talk about the nightmarish history between the Colts and Jaguars over the last 10 years, plus the college football roundup. We've got the ranked Hoosiers. Purdue's already firing people. We've got a lot to discuss when it comes to that as well. Bailey & Wood presents Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Back with more next.
Tonight.
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. You just saw their commercial spots. Bailey & Wood is the presenting sponsor of Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Alongside Jake Query, I'm Derek Schultz. 353-2141. Wait, no, that's Love Heating and Cooling. You can call them too. 855-350-HOME. See, I have all the phone numbers up here. 855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com. If you want to refinance. Interest rates are going like this, which is great. Thank God. It's a relief. If you want to refi, that's on the table. If you want to get pre-approved for your home mortgage, the home market's going to be cooking here with the financing rates and interest rates being down. Give them a call, 855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com, or walk into any number of their Central Indiana branch locations. They're all over the place. Throw a rock and you'll hit a Bailey & Wood Financial Group.
Well, you wouldn't want to throw a rock at them.
Well, yeah, don't throw a rock. Throw a Nerf ball, and you'll hit one.
Might catch that.
I would love to know the answer to this. How many times, maybe it's never happened, how many times in Indiana's football history have they lost the turnover margin 4-0 and won by
You
double
talking about the
digits?
Hoosiers?
Yeah. I mean, you think that's ever happened? They played I think like a C- game against Maryland, and they won 42-28. And not that Maryland's great, but Indiana has very rarely ever been in a position to play a C- game and beat anybody.
Right.
Now, second half they were much better, so maybe C- is too harsh. But, that first half, it was like, okay, here we go. Here's IU again. And there's just something about them this year.
I'll tell you what the something is. They have a coach that just has a presence.
Yeah.
There's a confidence and a swagger and a presence, and the team has bought into it. They've brought players that, transfers and mature players. Curtis Work has played really, really well. I know that they had a couple of key turnovers in that game, as you mentioned, Derek, but they're kind of going the Ted Lasso thing here of playing like goldfish, right? They make a mistake. They don't derail on that. They come back, bounce back, have a good possession, take back control. And when they get leads on people, they're not relinquishing it. They're not letting people back in the game. They have the opportunity here. I think Northwestern is kind of the proverbial trap game because you've got Nebraska at home, and it feels like they could beat Nebraska. They very well could be 7-0. Now, they could be 5-2.
Yeah.
But
you never want to, just because of Indiana's history, you never want to guarantee anything. But, for all the narratives about, buy-in and chemistry and the new coach, they're good. Like, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's a good team.
Yeah.
And the numbers and the stats back that up. And say what you want about the schedule, but they're hanging 40 every single week against everybody. I just think it's interesting, Jake, that a year ago this week was the infamous Akron sing-along. IU plays a 17 overtime game against a 2-win Akron team, a game that they absolutely should have lost, where Akron missed like a 35-yard field goal, which would have won the game. And afterwards, their social media team puts up a video of Tom Allen doing the 1, 2, you know what to do. And they sing in the fight song, and all the players look dejected. And it was just, it was high school. I mean, it just screamed high school program, loser program. That's what it screamed. I'm sorry if that's mean. It screamed high school loser program. And for them in a year to transform
But they do it now, though.
Where they are.
They still do it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, for the vibes around the program to transform in a year, like, Indiana has a lot of advantages. We talk about the disadvantages a lot with Indiana football, where the history and all of that. But how much does that really matter in today's day and age with NIL and all of that? Why if I'm a kid that wants to go to high school, why do I care about what Indiana football was in 1998? Why would I care about that? I care about, can I make a little bit of money, and can I win right now, and do I have great facilities, and do I have the support of the athletic department? And if I have all of those things, then that makes Indiana a decent place to be and a decent place to play.
Derek, unlike name 4 Big Ten schools or Power 5 schools off the top of your head. I'm going to write them down. Name 5.
Do they have to be Big Ten schools?
Just no Power 5 schools. Just
okay, Virginia Tech, Michigan,
okay,
Oregon,
okay,
and Kansas State.
Okay.
Sorry, I tried to give you like a little bit of a.
With the exception of maybe Kansas State. The difference being that if you were a kid that is thinking about going to Indiana and those are the other schools and everything else is all given equal, if you go to Indiana, you are absolutely second fiddle behind the 12th guy on the basketball team.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do think that can also be, certainly for a coaching staff, I think that could be an advantage where you're not.
That's fair.
Think about what the pressure Matt Rule is under compared to the pressure that Kurt Cignetti is under. It's completely different, right? I guess my point is, Jake, is that we made a lot of excuses for Tom Allen and where Indiana was, when really going 3-9 at Indiana in today's day and age with NIL is just there's no excuse for that. It's unacceptable. There's no reason why Indiana. I'm not saying that Indiana should be in the top 25 every year. There's no reason why Indiana can't churn out 7-8 win seasons.
Indiana right now, Derek, is in a position. So many things have to go. I mean, this is let's not even get into the fact that it's an expanded college football playoff. But they are in a position now to put themselves into bowl eligibility and then add on to how eligible that is in playing themselves into an exciting and a high-profile bowl game.
Indiana's floor right now, with where we sit today, October 1st, I get it, it's October 1st, is 8-4. That's their floor right now.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. I mean, that's a wild place to be. 8-4 automatically would make this one of Indiana's 5 best seasons of the last 50 years.
Yeah, you're right. Well, don't
just
forget,
can't say enough good
Derek,
things.
They were ranked 9th in the country under Tom Allen and went to a bowl game.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I think they caught lightning in a bottle. And you do want to give Allen some credit for that, but I think a lot of that was just catching lightning in a bottle, unsustainable stuff. They need somebody to come in that had built programs, and Cignetti has built programs.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's why they're sustained success, even in this day and age.
Now,
When
here's
the
a better
roster
question.
changes over to year to year. I think he can
Indiana,
sustain
if Indiana goes 9 to 10 wins, do they keep him?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
If Florida opens up or West Virginia opens up and they open up the pocketbook,
I mean, my thing is, and look, it's not a good situation right now, but it's Florida, right? Like an SEC school with
They're
a
gonna pay $10
championship
million a year.
history and the money that they pay. You know, Indiana can be really, Indiana's not Kansas State. They're not Vanderbilt when it comes to keeping coaches and paying money and things like that. Indiana can pay.
I mean, they're paying him $4.5. I think.
Yeah,
right?
Indiana can pay and Indiana can compete, but there's a different echelon for all of those schools like Ohio State and Alabama or somebody with the history of Florida. It's just a different ballgame. So that's not a knock on Indiana. If Kurt Cignetti goes 10-2 and then leaves for the Florida job, and this is an extreme hypothetical situation, but let's say that happens, I think you just say, hey, thanks for doing a great job with the program, and you're on to the next one. I think this is an attractive job.
I mean, he could make it that way for sure. He can make it appealing. Now, the other side of it, Derek, is this, and that is that when you start firing coordinators before October, that means that like you're taking on water, and that's the situation at Purdue. Look, Ryan Walters seemingly, when they hired him, was an energy guy and a young breath of fresh air, and it's not often that through year number 2 that you say a player that a coach is on the hot seat. And that would be unfair, and it would be almost irresponsible, except for that because of the fact that Graham Harrell was fired and because of the fact that Purdue does not seem to be gaining traction here in year number 2 versus year number 1 of Ryan Walters. It does make you curious about it, and they have a tough schedule. I just don't know where they get the footing to be able to get things turned around.
Yeah, it's tough because you're working against a lot of things here. Basically, you're starting from square one on offense, right? Because with a midseason firing, that's always what happens. You start to question everything that you put in over the summer, and like, hey, we thought this was going to work, we thought that was going to work, and now you're a month in, and as you said, you're taking on water, and you're navigating, getting the short straw as far as scheduling is concerned. It's a tough place to be right now. I think defensively, they've actually performed at the level that I expected them to. It's the offense that's been the disappointment to me. And I get that they're very banged up at wide receiver and all of that. But, I really thought with Reggie Love coming in and then Devin Mockabee, he kind of had a 1-2 punch as a running attack. Hudson Card is very experienced, and he closed the season very well last year. That's where I think the struggles have really surprised me. I mean, they have really, really struggled to score. So it just looks like, you always say, well, there's a lot of runway left and you got 2/3 of the season left, but it just looks like it's going to be a long slog here for Purdue, unfortunately.
By the way, speaking of college football and staying with that theme, that brings us to our Love That Play, brought to you each and every week by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com is the website, 317-353-2141. Love Heating and Air has been, of course, servicing Central Indiana and the Donut County since 1920, over 100 years in business. A family-owned business that treats you like family. They are honest with the work that needs to be done. They're not going to say it's a big job if it's not a big job. And in addition to that, you want people in your home that you can trust. That's what you get from the good guys and gals at Love Heating and Air with 24-hour on-call maintenance. 317-353-2141. When you call Love Heating and Air, by the way, be sure and tell them, you know what, Jake said you guys were good players with the Red Sox when you were kids. They sponsored our Little League team, did Love Heating and Air. And Chris and John always like to talk about our Little League days. Our favorite play of the weekend, Derek, I thought was one of those awesome atmospheres, awesome environments, and you're like, this is why college football is the best.
I was at a school. We did a second grade dads outing. We invited all the dads in second grade. I'm just with the coolest parents and the coolest group ever, moms and dads. It's just a great group. And we went to Gugman House.
Oh, it's a great place.
Down on 46th Street. We had never gone down there.
Which one did you go to?
The one at 46th in College. We went over there. And then we went to, a couple of the guys are Butler grads, and they like going to the old Bulldog.
Yeah.
What was Mo and Johnny's. And so we watched the whole game, basically, which I'm never at a bar.
That game is?
At 11:30, Alabama and Georgia. I'm never at a bar at 11:30 on a Saturday night anymore, but I was this time. And Georgia comes all the way back, and you're like, oh, my God. Like, and while you're gathering yourself that Georgia has completed this epic comeback, Ryan Williams is running down the field with the ball. untouched.
And the little spin move that he had.
Yeah, I mean, how about this, Jake? Ryan Williams, he's 17, right? To put that in perspective.
They said that 100 times.
Put that in perspective. He was born 5 days after the Colts won Super Bowl 41.
I saw that. I looked that up also, yeah.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I are both feeling old. But, 5-star everything who just happened to reclassify for this class and to just hit the ground running like that.
I don't understand
as
the
a freshman is
reclassify
insane.
thing, by the way. How does that happen?
You know what? I don't know
You
either.
just skip a grade?
I don't know. I think as long as you can graduate and complete your course. Like, I had a buddy that graduated, and then he started taking college courses this summer, and then he went to college as a 17-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
mean,
had
it is
a
amazing,
friend
though.
that did that.
Derek, what's amazing.
He wasn't an athlete.
What's
but-
amazing to think is this. This is the stuff that I think about. So I'm watching Alabama, Georgia. Two blue bloods and two of the best teams in college football this year. Georgia's been a dynasty in the last 3 years. Alabama, on the other hand, has not been an underdog at home since 2007. So a lot of expectation. Factories of NFL talent. And it's a back-and-forth game. Well, actually, I take it back. It wasn't even back and forth. Alabama gets out to this huge lead, and they're blowing out Georgia. Georgia comes roaring back. Georgia has the touchdown, as Derek mentioned, that gives them the lead inside of, 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes to go in the game. And you're like, holy cow, now can Alabama come back and score? And on, I think it was the first play, they throw to Williams. He catches it and does kind of this steps out of the defender and then does this just kind of spin move where I think even he was surprised. And he's like, oh, my gosh, the sidelines are in front of me. And he takes off and he scores. And Bryant-Denny Stadium is going bonkers. National television, Chris Fowler, everybody's – and I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching it, a year ago this guy was getting his driver's license.
Mm-hmm. Are you crazy?
And now he is like the moment, in that moment, the just all of it. I mean, how do you not get caught up in the pressures and the spotlight of that moment? He's almost like too young to even know the difference, right?
Yeah, I think of myself at 17. Hell, I think of myself at 27.
Correct.
And dealing with that. And
Did I know
can't
you at
imagine.
27?
Well, you would have known me. We didn't start the show until I was 28.
Okay. You were pudgy.
No, I was lifting a lot, so I was.
No, you were pudgy.
Muscle weighs more than fat.
No.
Outside of that catch,
You were doughy.
75-yard touchdown catch, 5 catches, 102 yards.
Oh, I know.
I mean, he's got 462 yards, 5 tuds this season overall for
Touchdowns,
Williams. I
not
mean,
tuds. Nobody says
absolutely,
tuds.
absolutely incredible. By the way, I disagree. I disagree with the people putting Alabama number 1. I think Texas should be 1. Now, this will all get sorted out. Texas plays Georgia. They don't play Alabama in the regular season, but they'll be an SEC championship game.
SEC, though.
Alabama, and I guess you could say some of this is forced. I mean, Georgia made every mistake possible in the first 4 quarters of that game and basically handed them 28 points. And then, yeah, great. Alabama won, and Georgia's really good. Okay. But I didn't think that, like, oh, my God, like, I'm really impressed. Alabama's number 1 after that. I think Texas should be number 1.
Do you know who is the team that I'm most curious about in this year's college football season, because you don't hear a lot of discussion on them, and I'm like, I think they're really good?
Tennessee?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think they're really good, too.
I think Tennessee's really good.
Just from what I've seen, I still haven't had the chance to watch Tennessee, whereas I've watched Texas.
Can a team in the SEC lose 2 games and still get in?
Yeah.
I think so, too. I mean, it's incredible because Texas, Oklahoma are both in the SEC.
I mean,
now.
Georgia, what if Georgia loses – what if Georgia loses at Texas and at Alabama? Are you going to keep them out? Their 2 losses are at Texas and at Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well, and I mean, the at Alabama, I mean, you're as close as you can get,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. They came all the way back. I mean, yeah, no, that there are going to be several 2-loss teams that get into the playoffs.
I did see, and this is ridiculous, on October 1st, I did see a bowl projection that has Indiana playing Missouri.
In the
bowl
playoff?
game. In a bowl game, no.
Oh, in Music City?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
No. What's the one in
Citrus?
Orlando? Cheez-It.
Oh, Cheez-It
It's
Bowl.
now
Which
Cheez-It.
used to be the Citrus
It's
Bowl, right?
Cheez-It Citrus now,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, used to be the Citrus Bowl.
Speaking of citrus, by the way, this blood orange.
I know, it's very good.
Is fabulous.
One other mention: Notre Dame hung on against Louisville. I think the offense actually looked pretty good. I still think like they're going to go 10-2 and
I
probably
guaranteed
go to
it.
the Cheez-It Bowl.
I guaranteed. No,
I just-
Missouri and Indiana are going to the Cheez-It Bowl. Derek.
I know.
guaranteed that Notre Dame would beat Louisville, and people told me that I was, somebody told me I'm a Louisville or Notre Dame hater, and it's bad for my show. And I'm like, I guaranteed they're going to beat Louisville, and they beat Louisville, right?
They're going to go 10-2 and go to the Nobody Cares Bowl and maybe win.
They're going to go 11-1.
No, they're not. They're not. They're going to lose.
Who's going to
Both
beat
of
them?
the service academies right now, Army and Navy, are both undefeated.
Okay.
Watch out.
Okay.
And USC at the end of the year, even though I don't think USC is very good. I think USC and Notre Dame are on the same level.
I'm glad that USC took 10,000 rider trucks to Lincoln, to
Madison,
Lincoln,
right?
to Madison.
Yeah.
No, to Lincoln Riley's house in Oklahoma, and just uprooted his life and brought him and gave him $15 million, bought him a house and paid off his house and the whole deal and and for what?
USC and Oklahoma, and I think even Notre Dame are kind of stuck in this spot where it's like, are you just going to go 9-3 every year? Because the fans don't want that.
Yeah, you're right.
The fans want you to go 12-0 or 11-1, and I think that's where those. I think Penn State is. I mean, maybe Penn State finally graduates from that, but that's where Penn State's been.
Penn
the
State
last couple
definitely
years.
feels like the proverbial 10-2,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We come back saying goodbye to Pete Rose, and also another legend passes. If you remember the show, or if you're a metal fan or a Canadian rock fan, you'll know of this person as well, and we'll talk about that when we come back. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride.
Welcome back. Bailey Wood presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Thanks for joining us. Pete Rose, the Hit King. Charlie Hustle, passing away on Monday at the age of 83. Unless you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, we're taping this early Tuesday morning, you'd be aware of that. 17-time All-Star. It's not even, I think you can say, it's guaranteed. No one will ever break his hit record. It's unbreakable. 4,256 hits.
That's probably fair, yeah.
Well, I mean, Jake, just the way that we treat the 162-game regular season, nobody plays all 162 games anymore. Now the discussion is, how do you take his lifetime ban? Is a lifetime ban meaning his lifetime? Is the lifetime ban meaning that the fact that he spent 83 years on this earth? So, I had one guy say, well, he served 25 of the 83. I think we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit there. To me, I always took his punishment to mean that you don't get to be here when you get into Cooperstown. That's what I always took his punishment to mean. Maybe I'm wrong, but now that he's no longer with us, and I can't imagine that people are going to be super against letting him in, I think you just go ahead and open up those doors, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I asked a question yesterday, and this goes back to, Derek, I don't want to make the comparison in any way, shape, or form to Pete Rose and somebody that committed horrific crimes. But I was reading an article, I won't say any names, but about somebody who was a notorious evil person who was given a funeral upon their passing, and people were like, why? And the person that put on the funeral said, well, they were sentenced to life in prison, and when their life ended, their sentence was complete. They had paid their debt to society. I only say that as to say Pete Rose's debt to baseball, if it was a lifetime ban, means exactly that, and that debt has been paid. Pete Rose, between the lines of baseball and what you would ask for out of a player or a role model in terms of his playing of the game, was everything you would want. He played hard. He played, to win. He was a true competitor. He was a great player. He was disciplined. But once he stepped over that line to go back into the clubhouse, all of that went away. He was undisciplined. He was non-scrupulous, and there were a lot of skeletons. He has a very complex and complicated legacy. Having said all of that, the argument about him going into the Hall of Fame, and I know this sounds crazy. Let me name a player, and you tell me whether you hear more or less about that player than you do Shoeless Joe Jackson, okay? Rogers Hornsby.
Yeah. Probably less.
Dizzy Dean.
Les, even though the name helps.
Pee Wee Reese.
Yeah, Les. Robin Yount.
Shoeless
Right?
Joe Jackson is one of the most discussed and talked about players in baseball history because of the fact that he is not in the Hall of Fame. Once you go into the Hall of Fame, it is true that you are immortalized within that hall, but the conversation about you kind of goes away. Pete Rose's legacy almost is benefited by the Hall of Fame discussion, quite frankly, because
Keeps him relevant.
It
right?
keeps him relevant.
But I remember having this same discussion about when the Cubs were about to win the World Series. Do they lose a piece of their identity because they won the World Series?
I was the one that said that.
And I just think, the answer to that really was kind of no. I mean, that'll always be part of their legacy. It's permanently entrenched, the lovable losers that the Cubs were, even after they won. And I still think that maintains. The ban is etched in stone. It's etched in bronze on his proverbial plaque, right? So I don't think that ever leaves. I am indifferent towards Pete Rose.
Derek,
I don't really care whether or not he's in the Hall of Fame, but to me, now that he's no longer with us, I think you make that decision.
Now, here's a trivia question for you. Show trivia. Pete Rose, you and I both had the opportunity to meet Pete Rose at the same time.
Yeah.
We went to, he was doing an autograph signing
Somewhere in Carmel. Yeah.
And we went up there to it. And he, admittedly, we really just kind of had like a private 10 minutes with him. I mean, and he was very nice to us.
Yeah, couldn't have been nicer. Yeah.
Who did he look up at me and then turn around to somebody else and say, you know who he looks like?
Oh, God, I don't remember. I don't remember.
He said,
I remember him marking your poster with blue Sharpie. Because Jake asked Pete Rose, you had a picture of the 75 Reds?
76 Reds.
76 Reds, okay. And you just asked him, hey, how many of these players are still with us, right?
So the 70 when you and I went, I had a matted the team poster of the 76 Big Red Machine. And I brought it with me to get him to sign it because I wanted to get as many of the players to sign it as possible. And so I brought the poster with me, and as we were walking in, you took a look at the poster. Okay, it's cool. And I said, the weird thing about this. And you said, what's that? And I said, as I understand it, like literally the day after this photo was taken, the Bat Boy, who's like 15 in this photo, was tragically killed in a car accident. You're like, really? I go, I'm certain that's true. So we sit the poster down in front of Pete Rose, and we're just sitting there talking with him. And one of the two of us said, hey, Pete, I know this is kind of weird, but is it true? I've always heard, maybe it's urban legend, that the Bat Boy, and Pete Rose, to his credit, and I always thought this was pretty cool, he looked at it and he goes, oh, no, that's Timmy. No, he's a good kid. He went to Ohio University, played baseball there. He goes, you're thinking of poor Matty the year before in 75. And boy, and he knew like the whole story.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
But he had the Sharpie in his hand because he's getting ready to sign the poster.
Uncapped.
Yeah. So as he's looking at the poster, recapping this, he goes, now, for what it's worth, though, and Pedro Barbone had just died. And he said, Petey's dead. And he takes the Sharpie and goes, and like puts it, and then he goes, and Sparky, he died, and then hey John, did you say Tommy died? Yeah, Tommy's dead, so he's dead. And we're just both standing there going, so I have a poster of the 76 Big Red Machine that's signed by like 5 of the starters
and a bunch of blue dots,
and a blue dot on everybody's. And so then I hate to say this, Derek, part of me is like, do I put a dot on Rose?
No, you leave it because he made those dots. You know what I mean? It's a story. When people see it, when people see that poster displayed in the 2-bedroom apartment where you live alone with your cat, there'll be a story that's with that.
Boo loves it. Boo likes the poster a lot.
I don't know if anybody else has ever seen it. So rest in peace to Pete Rose. Pacers Media Day, just a couple of interesting tidbits from that. Tyrese Halliburton talked about being humbled because of the Olympic experience, which I think is actually good, right?
Yeah.
Helps him with the drive. And I love that he's not dodging the fact that people think that the East Finals run was a fluke. Most players say, well, I don't read the papers. I don't listen to you guys. Tyrese Halliburton's like, look, I'm chronically online. So I know exactly what everybody's saying about us, which I love. I love that kind of approach. I'm looking forward to the season. I
got my Pacers shirt on today.
There you go. Yeah, some of the old heads there. Finally, another legend passing. Condolences to the family of Dave Allison. Of course, the original Anvil guitarist passed away at the age of 68. According to the Vinyl Frontier in Canada, Anvil said this in a statement, quote, "We'd like to send our deepest condolences to the Allison family and friends. Dave passed away this morning. He was a close friend. We will miss him. He was proud of his early contributions to Anvil, and his name and legacy will live on. Rest in peace.
They had the song you liked, right?
Well, they had major charting songs, so I'm not sure you'll have to be more specific than that. Hugely influential metal band, Anvil. Metal on Metal, I think, is the one that you're talking
That's
about.
right. Yeah. You knew that you would sing along.
Yeah,
right?
but God, Blood on the Ice. There were a lot of great Anvil songs, and Squirrely was part of all of that. So, rest in peace to Dave Squirrely and Allison from Anvil, rock legend. We come back. Actually, no, we got to do our Jags report. Sorry.
I thought we were going to do it on the other side.
Let's go to the IU.
Okay, we'll go to the Jags report, by the way. And like I always tell you, great Division I athletics right here in Indianapolis, affordable, great venues, including one of them I'm going to tell you about that's upcoming here that you can watch. But IUPUI, we will begin the Jags report with men's soccer, by the way. IUPUI men's soccer. They did lose to Western Illinois Tuesday 2-1. Tyson Asherman did score the goal for the Jags that evening. Then they went up to Oakland. They come home with a 0-0. Thank you for the soccer term draw against the Golden Grizzlies. Men's soccer returns from the road trip to host Detroit Mercy on Friday. 6 o'clock, Carroll Stadium. 6 o'clock at Carroll Stadium, the Jags and Detroit Mercy. Then they host Butler next Tuesday, a week from today, for a youth club soccer night for the crosstown matchup between the two. So a great chance for kids to get out, watch soccer, and get a little lesson as well. Now, on the women's side in women's soccer, the women's soccer continues to play well. Horizon League, after a long road trip, they beat Youngstown State 1-0 last week. Hannah Roberson tallying her first goal in the win. Then on Sunday, the Jags and Robert Morris ended with a 1-1 draw. Ashton Kudlow, the goalkeeper, earned Horizon League Defensive Player of the Week in opening up the week for league play. IU Indy's next game is this Saturday at home against Detroit Mercy. IU Indy at home against Detroit Mercy. So you've got a lot of soccer opportunities and, as I'd mentioned, a chance for kids to come out and take on a soccer clinic. Also, volleyball. Let's not forget about what's happening in volleyball. They faced Wright State at home for a tough matchup with the Raiders going 0-2 over the weekend, but the Jags' best showing was on Saturday, winning the first two sets of the match and then falling to the Horizon League champs. So pretty stout competition, very understandable there. They now go on the road. They are next at Purdue-Fort Wayne. That's going to be this week, and then they go to Milwaukee for the weekend, taking on the Panthers on Friday and Saturday. Swimming, Derek. When it comes to IU Indy, probably the most historic venue in Indianapolis that you can ask for in the natatorium. The men's and women's swimming and diving have their home opener that's coming up this weekend, hosting Eastern Illinois on Friday, so just a couple of days from now. Northern Kentucky and Southern Indiana also will be in the pool Saturday inside the natatorium on the IU Indy campus. It's beautiful because you can see right there behind the diving board the list of Olympic champions that have all had to go through the natatorium. And IU Indy, who knows, you might be seeing the next Olympian right there in the pool. Your chance to see all of it, iuindyjags.com/tickets. That's iuindyjags.com/tickets. Love the Jags. Division I sports
thought of
right
a suggestion, by the way, for the
and the
fight
Horizon
song.
League based here too.
For the fight song, I thought of a suggestion, and Lauren and everybody, Ed and everybody over there, they don't even have to give me credit for this, or Luke, whoever. There's a part where it goes, dun, 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 IUPUI.
That's the old song, yes.
The old song. Instead of that, just dun, 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 IUINDY. Right? It just kind of flows. There's an extra character in there, but it just kind of flows. Like, it doesn't sound like it's forced. I have an incredible musical ear. Like, I think in another life I could have been a musician. I mean, I'm super talented in a lot of areas, but I think I could have been a musician.
Do you think that's
as well?
Do you know what's in your ear, by the way?
I'm an excellent singer.
Do you know what's a critical part of your ear when it comes to music?
The eardrum?
The anvil. Condolences again, by the way, to the loss of their guitarist.
Yeah, you can say his name. His name's Dave Allison. People know what his name is. There,
I don't know. I don't know what percent of our listeners are aware that Dave Allison is the guitarist.
You guys,
of Anvil.
I know Lauren watches the show. Run that one up.
And I'm sure thrilled to be doing so after your Anvil reference.
I'm always mortified that people actually watch this show, to be honest. I usually just think of it as
stunned.
This is a show just for Vince and Rake and Charlie. That's it. Those are the people that we're doing the show for.
Are you kidding me?
We come back. Chateau
They're
Kitchen's
like
by
your
or Bull
Granville
Bleep,
shirts.
and these guys are yelling at me because we're way, way over. Vince is about to flip tables over in there. We'll come back and wrap up the show next. Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
games we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey and Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for a final time. It's Bailey and Wood presents Quinn and Schultz. ISC Sports Network, Chateau Kitchens. At Chateau Kitchens, Instagram, Facebook, before and after pictures, chateaukitchens.com. They are the best in the biz. Anything on the inside of your home, renovation-wise. Kitchen, bathroom, living room. You want a wet bar. You want a chandelier that shoots out streamers at 5:02 p.m. every day. You know, whatever you want. Chateau Kitchens can do that for you. I don't know why that was my example. It's a weird example. We'll get that in
Why
post.
5:02?
3, 2, 1.
Louisville?
You want a special chandelier that is shiny. Chateau Kitchens can do that for you.
What about
as
one
part of
that
their
shoots
projects.
out stuff at 5:02?
Yeah, I know. We can talk about that. I just grabbed that in post, but we can talk about that. They are the proud sponsors of Buy It or Bull Bleep. I'm not sure how proud they are of it.
Not.
Jake and I go back and forth. We give a statement whether we buy it or it's Bull Bleep. Statement 1, the Indianapolis Colts will win at least 10 games this year. Buy it or Bull Bleep.
Yeah, I buy it. Schedule gets a little tough, but I buy it. That would mean
Yeah,
they got to go. They have, 13 games left?
I think my prediction was a rather reckless one. I had him at 12-5, which was probably me chugging the Kool-Aid a little too much. But I do think that,
You know that-
especially, you know what changes for me, Jake? I assumed that Jacksonville was going to be good, and I thought
Right.
Tennessee was going to be okay. And if both of them are going to struggle like this, then I think 10 wins becomes much, much, much more realistic.
Tennessee looked good last night. Do you know that
Yeah.
it was
Levis
not actually
stinks.
Kool-Aid was not actually used in Jonestown. You know the phrase "drinking
Yeah.
the Kool-Aid"? It was actually Flavorade.
Okay, so it was like a knockoff,
Do you think the
Powerade of
how
Kool-Aid?
happy are the Flavorade folks?
Was it Tang? Vince says we have 2 minutes, so we can't get into serial killers.
They had to be like the Flavorade folk are like,
Statement
yes,
2.
just stay with Kool-Aid. Let's just stick with
The
that.
Big
Make it
Ten
a phrase.
We'll have at least 3 playoff teams. 3. Who's even in that group?
Bullschultz.
Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. Ooh, there's 3 right there. I don't think Michigan's going to do it, right? And Indiana would.
SC ain't getting in, right?
Indiana would be and SC only has 1 loss, so that would be your 6 potentials. Because
No, I think it's going to be
Nebraska,
2.
like I don't.
I think it's going to be 2.
Iowa.
Oregon's going to get stunned at Purdue.
I just don't trust Oregon. I don't
Yeah,
trust.
Oregon has not been overly impressive.
Well, but we always talk about Oregon's being so great, and they got all these athletes and stuff. The second they get punched in the mouth,
That's
they
hard to
wilt,
argue.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's hard to
that's
argue.
why they had trouble with Stanford all those years, because Stanford would just beat them up. I'm going to say yes, because I think the odds are in my favor. The odds are in your favor for the Big Ten for 3 playoff teams, but I'm on the fence. They'll have at least 2. Finally, the Pacers will regress this season. Buy it or Bull Bleep.
I think regress. I mean,
Yeah,
are they going to
define
go
regress, yeah.
Are they going to go 2 wins away or 4 wins away from the finals? I don't know about that, but I think that they will be as equal. I think the East is going to be better, but I think the Pacers are going to stay about where they are, but their record may look regressed because of the fact that the competition is healthier and better around them. But I think they still are in the playoff conversation around the 6th seed, which is what they were.
Yeah,
last
I mean,
year.
I think they could be the 5 seed, which would be better,
Right.
right? But then they could lose in the second round to the 1,
Right.
which would be worse, technically. So, who knows? I'll say, you know what? Bull Bleep. They won't regress. Thanks to Chateau Kitchens. Thanks to Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water Tap Room as well. Thanks to our friends at Love Heating and Cooling. IU Indy as well. The athletic programs there, Lauren and everybody else are great. And Bailey and Wood Financial Group, the presenting sponsors of the show. For Vince, for Greg, for Charlie, he's Jake. I'm Derek. Bye. See you next time on Quinn and Schultz.
At Bailey and Wood, we pride ourselves.